we are playing some of these venues that they're used to 18-wheelers rolling up, with tour buses. And here we are, 7 of us in a minivan and a Sprinter, and they're like, this is it? This is all you guys got? I would compare Taylor Swift shows, 2 years in now, to the Grateful Dead. I would compare these kids to Deadheads in that obviously the music is extremely different, but the culture and the way that these kids are connected to Taylor's music, I think is very similar to Deadheads, where, first of all, I find them to be excited to be in a room. I mean, we're not, Taylor's not in the room with us, right?
Right.
But it is her music, but they are happy to be together, like just to be in a room together with each other.
Hey everybody, welcome to another tribute band session podcast. Ray,
Mike.
Today's guest is going to be amazing.
Oh yeah, Marcus is a bad
Marcus
dude, man.
Linial from ML Presents, and he has like some of the top tribute bands out there.
Yeah.
Taylor Swift
Jessie's
selling
Girl.
out shows.
What was that? Rubik's Cube, an '80s
Rubik's
band.
Cube,
Taylor.
yeah, I think they changed her name, but yeah, that was the. And he has Let's Sing everything. Let's Sing.
Let's Sing
Taylor Swift.
Let's sing. Yeah.
So this one's going to
Let's
be
sing Mike and Ray. How about that next? Coming up next.
I would sing, but nobody's going to come to my show. Unfortunately,
Nobody's going to come to you, and Marcus probably won't book us anyways.
Nah,
and where is
no.
Marcus?
Marcus
get over
is here. Come on, Marcus, get right here.
Come on, Marcus. Let's rock.
Marcus from ML Presents, and we're so excited to talk to you. First of all, I have to thank you for being on the show, and you just have such great products that I'm just so excited to talk to you about all the bands you have.
Well, thank you for having me.
Right on,
I
Marcus.
appreciate it. I'm excited to be
Right
here.
on, Marcus. Thanks for being here, man.
Yes.
Of course. It's my pleasure.
So jumping right into it, you and your personality, having a background in music, what led you into the tribute band world of, developing a company that does that versus going, hey, I'm going to go manage a bunch of original music?
The way I ended up in the tribute band world was I used to own some live music venues. I owned live music venues in the city for about 20 years. And one of my venues, it was called Canal Room. And we were like 600 capacity venue. And we were getting some great shows, but we were always sort of fourth or fifth online for getting the shows. Basically, at that time, Live Nation and Barry Presents were getting a lot of the shows, and we were having a tough time. And then someone came to me and said, hey, I know this group called, at the time they were called Evolution. They're a Journey tribute band. They're looking for a gig. They're really big in Long Island, but they haven't really conquered or played the city. And I said, you know what? I'm a big Journey fan. I love Journey. And I watched this guy, Hugo, I watched like a video of him, and I was like, this is great. Let's do it. I booked a date with them. And I remember I gave away a lot of tickets. I think I gave away 100 tickets, but then we sold like 300 tickets. And our first show was almost sold out. Well, we were probably about 100 tickets away from being sold out, but we did the show and people were just blown away. And what I realized at that moment was like, one, none of the agents would touch these bands, and most of the venues wouldn't really touch them. They were playing, and Canal Room was a really sort of high-end music place. We were doing a lot of private events. I mean, we had everyone from Nelly Furtado to the Black Eyed Peas to Missy Elliott. We did a lot of shows, but they were all private events. We sort of became the place to go to for the record labels to do their private showcase. So we had John Mayer perform. We had Elvis Costello perform at Canal Room.
Wow.
But none of these were ticketed shows. These were all private events. So we were getting great names, but we couldn't advertise any of them. So with this, the place came alive, and I booked them again. And then someone told me about an 80s band from Long Island that I spoke to, and I had them like an all 80s sort of show, and I had them open. And that's when I really saw that there was a market here for cover bands. And I just started to treat these bands really well. We had a beautiful space. I fed them. I put stuff in the green room. None of them were used to sort of the treatment that we were doing for them. And I realized, look, these are all really great, super talented musicians. Yes, they're playing other people's music, but just treat them. I was so used to treating all these other big acts that were coming in the room. We weren't going to lower our standard in any way. And so I just treated them really well. And I found that really went a long way, because they were used to, playing in clubs and playing for the door, or, not. One guy told me, one place they played, they'd have to pay for their own drinks and stuff like that. And I was like, it's such a small thing to do for people, but it goes a long way. And that has really stuck with me all these years, that I treat the musicians really well. That's
Good
what
for
I
you,
like
man.
to do.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, that's totally different, than playing a club, or a bar.
Right on, man.
But on the other side of the coin, we started selling out. Like the Journey tribute started selling out the room. The 80s tribute started selling out the room on their own. And I saw something really, I was like, so the 80s band, I gave them some money. I gave them a budget. I said, you know what? Let's step up this whole thing. Let's make this like a real show and not just be a bar band. Let's really get some outfits, and really let's go off, and let's put a video before you go on stage, and let's build this thing up. And that's what we did. And what happened with the 80s show, I'll tell you, it started out as this band Rubik's Cube. That's who I was managing first. And we started doing it once every 12 weeks, and then we went to once every 8 weeks, and then we went to once every 6 weeks, and then we went to once a month. And when we went to once a month with Rubik's Cube, the club started doing some great business on the weekends. I started having Journey probably, once every other month. And I said to the 80s band, my gut feeling is telling me we should go weekly with this, that this could be a real thing. And we ended up going weekly, and it just went crazy, and was selling out every weekend. We weren't that big. We were 600 people, and the tickets started selling in advance. We started them cheap. We would raise the price, raise the price by even $2, every couple months I was raising it, to the point where, we were selling out the shows in advance, and we would do VIP seating and stuff like that. But it was still cheap enough, for $30 you could sit in the VIP.
Yeah.
And for $50, you have an incredible Saturday night out in New York City. Where can you go and spend $50 and get all your ticket, all your drinks are covered?
No,
That's
a deal.
impossible.
Right
You can't
there.
do that in New York.
Right. So I saw an opening there where, again, this goes back, I want to say, 2005, right? So that was 20 years ago. Nobody was doing tribute bands 20 years ago.
Let me ask you, were these just the only two bands, the Journey and Rubik's Cube? Was it only those two bands at that time?
So once I started with those guys, then I expanded, and I found another band called Unforgettable Fire, which was a U2 tribute band. There was a Bruce Springsteen tribute. So I started doing more of them, but I represented the Journey tribute, and so basically, and Rubik's, I started representing them. I said, look, you guys need an agent. I was looking to do something more than just own my venue, and looking. This was like a new fun thing for me. And they were like, yeah, and because I wanted to. I was like, this is great. It's working at Canal Room, but let's see if we can get this into other cities. And like, you know what I mean? So, and that's what happened. And just a quick, I ended up ending my relationship with Rubik's Cube and created Jessie's Girl. And that's the band 13 years later that I still manage to this day. So basically Rubik's Cube, the band had split up, and instead of going with the singers, which usually you do, I went with the band, with the musicians, and we ended up getting some new singers, and the band's been together for 13 years now.
Wow, that's incredible.
And we just played the Paramount in Long Island 2 nights ago and sold it out. I mean, we've been playing the Paramount for 12 years, but 1,600 tickets, completely sold out, and people are like, aren't you sick of doing it? And I'm not, because I get high when I go walk into a room and I see 1,600 people there watching my band perform on stage and just loving it.
Of course.
No, that's and plus, you've expanded your brand, meaning like I just see, if you go to your site, you now see things like Let's Sing Taylor, Let's Sing Harry Styles, Let's Sing all. So, like, what led you down that pathway of saying, all right, I'm going to look at some newer, younger artists to create a band around that? Like, how did you fall into that? Because I see a lot of these agencies don't have that.
So what happened was I was very decade driven. So when I saw Jessie's Girl was, happening, then I started a 90s show at Canal Room. This goes back years ago because I sold the Canal Room in 2014. So at one point when we finally, when we sold the Canal Room, at that point I was doing a 90s show on Friday nights and Jessie's Girl every Saturday night, 52 weeks a year. So I was producing those 104 shows at Canal Room. And that's what, even though we've had I had Bob Weir play at Canal Room. I mean, we've had all these big bands, but we really got known as like the 80s and 90s spot, and we were doing the weekly shows. Fast forward years later, I guess it's been almost 2 years now. 2 years ago, when you couldn't get a ticket to Taylor Swift, a friend of mine that I went to college with called me and said, "Hey, Marcus, you don't have a connection." I said, "No, I don't." She goes, "Well, you should really start a Taylor Swift tribute band." And years before that, I had started something called the Fun Music Kids Show, where I was doing sort of like all the hit songs for young kids, because at that time I had like a 5 and 6, 7-year-old, and I was like trying to put together a show for them. And it was starting to work, but I did it towards the end of Canal Room, and I basically sold my room, so I didn't have the room to really build it there. But in that show, I did have like a Taylor Swift thing, but again, that was just a piece of the puzzle. And then when she said, at first I said, "Nah, you know what, I'm really not doing the one band tribute thing." But then 2 weeks later, it's like a light bulb went off, and I said, "You know what? I do love Taylor Swift." At that moment, 2 years ago, my daughter was 14. I was trying to get her tickets. I couldn't get her tickets, and I'm sort of in the music industry. I kid people like I'm in the music industry, but I'm not really in the music industry. And I had this girl, Emily, who was the lead singer of my 90s band called the Fresh Kids of Bel Air. And she's like this tall, thin girl who plays acoustic guitar, but she's got this big black hair. So I texted her, I'm like, "Em, meet me at the coffee shop in Dumbo tomorrow." I live in Dumbo, Brooklyn.
Love that area.
And she came in, I said, "Could you sing Taylor?" And she says, "I love Taylor Swift." And then I called this guy, Matt Fernandez, who is my go-to guy, and he's a music director for a couple of my other bands. And he said, "Dude, I'm all in." He goes, if you and Emily are in, I'm in. And we put 3 shows up on sale. And that's when I connected with Craig Brook. And Craig Brook works for Independent Artist Agency, IAG. They merged recently, so it used to be a different company. But and Craig works with like Nora Jones and Elvis Costello. And I said, "Craig, I've got this idea to do Taylor, and I want to call it Let's Sing, because I want to make it like let's all get together and sing Taylor Swift, sort of like make it a sing-along thing. And he's like, I think it's a good idea. So he booked us a few shows, and those two shows, one was at Daryl's house in Pauling, New York, which is a 200-seat little tiny place, and the other one's the Paramount in Huntington, Long Island, which is 1,600 seats. And the Paramount said, you know what, Marcus, we don't want to put it in the big room. We'll put it in our little room called Spotlight. And I said, we booked Daryl's house, which was right for that area. That's like the only place in that area was Daryl's house. But I said, with Paramount, I see it big. I want to do it in the big room. Trust me. And they were totally against it. They were like, you got to do it in the small room first. And I said, guys, I won't even do it in the small room. I only want to do it in the big room. And they're like, all right, well, we'll do, $15 tickets. I'm like, trust me, just do $25 tickets. You're in Huntington, Long Island. It's going to work. So I agreed to do the $15 ticket. The show sold out. Both shows sold out, both in advance. And that's when I felt like, wow, we definitely have something here. I put the band in rehearsal for like 3 weeks straight, started hiring a stylist, and we really wanted to, do the show justice. And, I asked Emily if she would dye her hair, and she didn't love the idea. She's got this, it's black, it's big.
Right.
So we found her a great wig, and the rest is sort of history. And we've been touring that band for, almost 2 years now.
Wow, that's incredible. And you guys play all over the place, right?
Yeah, we've been to Abu Dhabi with Let's Sing Taylor. We haven't been out of the country that much. We did go to Nicaragua to do a couple of shows there. We have been all over the U.S. Yeah, we did 125, 130 shows, I think, in 2024.
Wow.
I would say for me, it's been a life-changing deal just because I was managing my bands that were pretty much playing in New York City. When I sold Canal Room, I closed Canal Room on like January 14th of 2014, and January 21st, I did a deal with a venue called Le Poisson Rouge in New York City on Bleecker Street. It's the old Village
right
Gate.
Okay.
And then that became Life, which was in the 90s a very big venue. And I was getting a lot of offers from different clubs to do my weekly shows at, but none of the venues would take both shows. And I wanted both shows, the 90s and the 80s, to go to one venue. I didn't want to promote different venues. I wanted to find a home, like I had at Canal Room. And Le Poisson Rouge came to the table, and I moved both my shows there. So we closed one weekend at Canal Room and moved there. But the reason why those two bands never toured was because they had weekly shows in Manhattan. And for musicians, there's no better life. You got a weekly gig in Manhattan, and they were both uber successful. So they were feeling success, but neither of them toured. But with Taylor, I said to Craig, let's go. Like, let's get this out there. And so we quickly became known as really the Taylor Swift tribute in the country. There are today a lot of Taylor Swift tribute bands,
Right.
but we sort of had we sort of jumped first, and that was very helpful to sort of really get us out there in a big way.
Yeah, plus you probably honed the show and you have it down to a science now, so it's like a real deal show, especially what I've seen.
And I got to tell you, to this day, and I was like, I would tell my wife, Melanie, I'm like, I don't have a road manager yet. So I'm going to go do these. I'll do these 6. And then by then I'll get a road manager. And then that story went on for like a year and a half. And I never found a road manager, but really I think at some point I stopped looking because I was just loving the experience of this gig. This was unlike anything ever before, where the audience was, anywhere from like 7 to 14, and the parents and the moms. So it was like young kids and moms, a lot of cool dads that were going, but mostly moms and their daughters. And it was like, I was used to, like 30, 20 to 30, 40, 50-year-olds, drinking at the bar, drinking heavy, hitting the bar, singing along to, Bon Jovi or Journey or Nirvana, or Britney Spears. But this was like, and I would compare Taylor Swift shows, 2 years in now, to the Grateful Dead. I would compare these kids to Deadheads in that obviously the music is extremely different, but the culture and the way that these kids are connected to Taylor's music, I think, is very similar to Deadheads, where they are fully, first of all, I find them to be excited to be in a room. I mean, we're not, Taylor's not in the room with us, right?
Right.
But it is her music, but they are happy to be together, like just to be in a room together with each other, singing. So it's like all the, we typically get, we play, some venues are 800. A lot of the venues are 2,500. We've played some 4,000. We played one show where we had 8,000 people show up.
Wow.
At a big outdoor space in Indiana last summer. And the one thing is that these kids, if you go to a show and you meet someone there, it's like instant 2,000 friends. Yeah. You're all in the same room for the same purpose.
It's definitely, she definitely created a thing, Taylor.
Yeah.
That is, which is, it's great. And then, it led you to producing those other bands, the Harry Styles. I saw you had.
You do a Sabrina one.
Sabrina Carpenter.
Sabrina.
Okay.
Let's sing Sabrina. That's a newer one. We're just getting those sort of underway. And I'll be honest with you, where the older tributes, the Bruce, the U2, if you're in a U2 tribute band, you don't really want to be out there on the road when U2 is touring, because those people are getting that fix.
Right.
It's the opposite with the young kids. You actually want to do the Harry when Harry's out there, because what happens is, and it's a little unfortunate, but like a lot, on our third show with Taylor, Let's Sing Taylor, Emily, our Taylor Swift, goes out on stage and says, "How many people have been to the Eras tour?" And we thought there was going to be a roar of a crowd, but you could hear a pin drop. And none of these kids were there. And we were up in a small theater in New Hampshire. This was our third show ever. And it was like a 700-seat theater. And we realized that, these kids a few things. Either they just couldn't get tickets because, it doesn't matter how many nights Taylor's doing, at the stadium. If, 50,000 people were able to get tickets, there's still 300 or 500,000 that couldn't get them. You know what I mean? So, or they couldn't afford the ticket.
True. Yeah, no, that's right.
And that's where tribute bands do succeed, where, you can afford the ticket, and they're easier to get. So we stopped saying that. We stopped asking that question. That was the first and last time we ever said, because you don't ever want to make, kids feel bad that they're not able to go to the real thing.
No, and what you're creating is like the concert. They think that they're at the Taylor Swift show.
Yeah. They know that it's not Taylor up there. Of
course.
But what happens is, and this is another thing, like, listen, Jessie's Girl sold out 1,600 tickets, but no one's like, no disrespect to my band, but people aren't lining up to meet them after the show. Whereas with Let's Sing Taylor, these kids are seeing Emily up on stage for 90 minutes, and they all of a sudden, didn't know who she was before, but then after we do a free meet and greet religiously after every show. We're like, as long as the venue will allow us to do it, we do it. So Emily will do her 90-minute show, and then we do a meet and greet that lasts usually about an hour. And these kids, wait online, and she'll shake every hand and take a picture with everyone who wants to do it. And they do it. They get online, to meet her after. So that's cool.
No, that's a thrill. That's when I saw your promotion online, I was just like blown away. I was just like, holy crap. This is like a thing,
How big is Taylor Swift's band? Like when you guys are on stage?
Yeah, so there are four people on stage, and then there's four musicians and two dancers, and so there's six on stage, and then sometimes there's four dancers. It'll become eight on stage, and then sometimes we'll throw in like a violinist as a special guest, to come out and do a few songs. So sometimes there could be up to nine people on stage, but typically it's a six. We travel six people.
And are you, by traveling, are you guys actually doing consecutive dates, or is these just in and out?
We've done the most that we've gone out for. We recently went out and did a 3-week run.
Okay.
So we'll go out and do 3 weeks, come home for a week or two, and then go back out for another 2 weeks. We've got a 4-week run this summer. I mean, they're playing all summer long, but there is a stretch where we are going out for 4 weeks where all right, guys, make sure you got enough underwear because, you're not coming home for 4 weeks.
A tour. You're doing a tour. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a real tour. But the funny thing is, Ray, is that we are playing some big venues. Like, we played the Rose Music Center in Ohio, and we are playing some of these venues that they're used to 18-wheelers rolling up, with tour buses. And here we are, 7 of us in a minivan and a Sprinter, and they're like, this is it. This is all you guys got. But it's not about that for us. It's not about rolling in with this huge production. We do bring some extra production, like locally. I've got this great company that does some extra stuff, but we don't travel with it on the road.
Do you travel with your own equipment, or are you doing backline on these dates?
We travel with our own backline.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But not our, production, sound and lights, all that stuff we use at the venues that we're going to. Yeah. It's funny. I was, one of the Capitol Theater was like, I think one night they had Nora Jones and one night they had us. So like, Nora's loading in, her people are loading in at 8 in the morning. We're like, we'll load in at 3 p.m. You know what I mean? Like, so we're like a very simple band. The venues love us. We do sell tickets, but we're pretty simple when it comes to, how we roll.
As long as you sell tickets, that's the priority right there, Yeah.
Yeah, we move tickets, and it's nice because a lot of the venues, they say, we don't usually get a lot, we don't do a lot of these younger shows. So this is great. It's bringing in a whole new audience for us. And maybe, because at the end of the day, it is the parents buying the tickets. Don't get me wrong, we do get some 20-year-olds and, college kids that come. But for the most part, it's definitely the younger kids.
Mike, I don't know if you're familiar with the Capitol Theater. That's a historic venue in the New York area.
I know the Paramount, but the Capitol I have not been to.
It's a very small venue to access to the stage and everything, but the sound there is one of the best sounding rooms,
Yeah, and Ray, you're right. It is historic.
Okay, real quick, we mentioned social media. Now, how are you using social media with the tribute bands?
Yeah, so both bands. It's interesting. Jessie's Girl they just hit, after 13 years, 10,000 followers on their Instagram. Taylor, we just got up to 18 months to get to 11,000, or we're almost at 11,000
and growing
followers. But what took Jessie's Girl 13 years, Taylor, we were able to do quickly. So we do have, listen, it's not 100,000, it's not 1 million followers, but it's 10,000. But what I've learned is that these are actually 10,000 real people. Like, we don't buy, followers or anything like that. So when we do put something out, it does get attention. And I'm no longer the promoter, especially with these shows, Let's Sing Taylor and Jessie's Girl. After COVID, I stopped doing the weekly show in Manhattan, and now I manage the bands. And so, the venues are promoting it, but we do run our social media, and we do, we take out ads and stuff like that. I still produce Jessie's Girl shows in the city, but just not as often. Now we do like every other month with Jessie's Girl. But so I take out some ads with that, but we try, I pretty much run, I'm very hands-on. I've given the Instagrams to other people to run, but they were always asking me, can I post this and that? And I just found it easier. It's for me, it's just fun. So I'm just on there, doing it all the time. And I go to the shows. So I'm in the moment. So instead of me like trying to, hire someone and tell them to like get this and that at the show, like I'm at the show. So
Yeah,
I'll do
right.
it. And, I'll go live with Jessie's Girl on Instagram during their show. And, 75 to 100 people will start watching while we're doing it.
That's
That's
great.
incredible. I mean, you have to do that nowadays just to be able to capture the moment. And there's people that are on social. The live is a huge part of that. So I think that's so smart.
I try and go live at the shows. I think that's what people want to,
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I and including myself, even if it's a national band going live, I'm going to tune in and watch it myself.
Oh, I love it when bands do that. I appreciate it when bands do that. Yeah.
So Marcus, tell me, so this podcast is going to draw fans, it's going to draw musicians, just everybody. And that's why we kind of created it. But I have to ask you, your advice to a musician watching this who wants to break into the business as a tribute band. Is there any stuff either that you can tell them to do or to look for, or trends that are upcoming?
Yeah. A band just asked me if they could hire me to sort of advise them. And I'm a little crazed and busy because I tell people like, ML Presents, we're a small company, but we do big things. And
Right.
so like we do things, I try to do them in a big way, but we are a small team. So, but I still said, look, I can't come on, like a full time, but I said, let's just keep it as a friendly thing. And I'll sit and give you a half an hour and we'll talk and I'll just give you some advice. And my advice is this, make a really great video. And we used to make 4 or 5 minute videos of promo videos. You don't even need that anymore. People don't even want to watch 5-minute video. If you gotta watch 5 minutes, you're probably not gonna say 30 seconds.
30 seconds. That's all
You need
Yeah.
30, you need 30 seconds of a great, high quality, well done, well directed video. And I don't mean just no one wants to, and in that 30 seconds, I better hear 3 songs. You know what I mean? It's 10 seconds a song. We are living in an ADD
Everything's fast.
world.
Everything's fast now.
And
Yeah.
you know what? When we started doing the Taylor shows, we were doing a 2-hour show. They don't want it. No one, let me tell you, if I could give advice, not to just tribute bands, okay? I went to go see Haim at Madison Square Garden.
Sure.
Okay. They had 2 openers. It was a Tuesday night. They didn't go on stage until 10 p.m. Now, I am older than their normal fan, okay? But my daughter's their fan, and she's in 11th grade. So she had school the next day. So we both had to get home for certain reasons. Like the doors opened, okay, at 6:30. They didn't go on until 10. Nobody wants to sit in a venue and wait 3.5 hours for I don't care
Agreed.
what headlining
Agreed.
act you are. So really make it quick. Make a great video, make it high quality, and make it really good. Because at the end of the day, if a corporate company, I do a lot of corporate stuff. Next week on Tuesday, I'm flying 25 musicians. It's about 18 musicians and then a team of like 6 of us, a stylist, 2 sound guys, 2 road managers to do a big corporate gig with one of my bands called Party Rock. All right. We do this company years ago. I first told them they were crazy. I was wrong. They were right. I was like, no one's going to listen to a band for 5 hours, but we do this 5-hour gig. It's a big corporate event. And it's crazy. No one leaves from 6:30 to 11:30. And they want 5 hours. They don't want any dead air. They don't want anything acoustic. They want 5 hours of straight music. So I've been producing the show for them. And now they're based in Ohio. So what I'm getting at is for a band, if you want someone in Vegas or or Idaho. They're not going to catch you live in a club. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
so they're going to see your video. Your video has to sell it. That's it. Your website needs to look today. If you look like you're, 10 years ago, it's not going to work. Listen, Jesse's Girl, they're up there in their price. People say, well, I can hire this band for $1,000. You can. But if you want the best 80s tribute band, I say in the world, it's not even the country, in the world, then everything that we do has to be on that level. You know what I mean? That's where I'm at. I want to be the top in the world, not just the United States. So like everything you do, that's my advice.
No, that's great advice. And you know what? You have to have everything.
And that 30-second video, people will watch it again and they'll watch it again, like in one sitting, because you got to get their attention, and if it's done, they're going to go, oh, I want to see that again because it was so good, so they will watch it one or two more times, but are ready with the decision of hiring them. It will be established.
Yeah.
Now, here's something interesting. You mentioned Jesse's Girl again. They did, or you probably booked them. I remember years ago, a friend of mine put together the 80s cruise, and that was one of the first bands that was booked. And do they still do it, the 80s cruise?
This was the first year, 2025 was the first year that Jesse's Girl did not do the 80s cruise. We did the first, I think, 8 years. So they're 9 years old. We did the first 8 years. We were the only band to be invited back every year from day one. We weren't on this last year. And there were no, it wasn't a money thing. They honestly, they didn't even ask us to come back, but it was done in a very nice way. Like, listen, I think we all felt it was probably time to take a breather. We had done 8 years.
And they'll be back.
And it was an incredible experience. I've got nothing but great things to say about the 80s cruise. They put on a really great experience for people. And it is, it's a place where you go, no one's talking politics. So all that's out the door, right? It doesn't really matter what side, where you're from with that. And it's just music fans, on a cruise. I mean, it's not a brain scientist didn't take it to, it's not a recipe that hasn't worked before, but like they get some really great acts, and we did it for 8 years. And that also opened us up to people around the country knowing Jesse's Girl. I will say that the 80s cruise helped us, get people from Florida or, California to learn about our band. Yeah, it was a great experience. It was always super fun.
Those themed cruises they keep going, keep getting bigger. There's more of them. That's a whole nother industry as well.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see that grow. And then you're just getting even bigger bands. Look at Creed. They're doing like their second one, I think this year, or third one. I can't even, but big bands are on the bill,
Yeah. It's interesting, in the 80s, you've got I'm friends with Colin Hay from Men at Work, with Howard Jones, Martin Fry of ABC.
Sure.
And as there's some artists that own the 80s. They'll say, I'm proud, and then there's some artists who want to distance themselves from the 80s. But the 80s, I still think to this day, musically was the best time ever.
Agree.
Now,
I grew up in the 80s and the music was incredible, and it was live. It was incredible and live. Yeah.
It's incredible. It's incredible. I mean, I managed a 90s band too. It's good, but I'm sorry, it's just not the same.
I agree, man.
As the 80s.
I agree.
You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't a metalhead back in the day, but I just ordered. Now, let me tell you, for the store, I didn't have any heavy metal in the store, right? But I love when Jesse's Girl does Van Halen and Motley Crue and all this stuff. So I just ordered this morning. My wife said to me, she goes, "Oh, I saw the order. You ordered AC/DC, Motley Crue, Van Halen, and Guns N' Roses." I said, "Yes, I did, because it's time." Like you can't deny that stuff, right? So it's interesting, but I think, the 80s cruise, look, there's certain acts that they're not going to get. but they certainly do get, they've had the B-52s, they've had Cheap Trick, they've had Billy Ocean. That's what I like about the 80s crews, is that they've got Information Society, they're all over the board. And I think like the fans who are going to that, maybe they wouldn't go buy tickets to go see Billy Ocean, but they're running to see him on the cruise because it's there as part of it, and they end up loving him.
They get a mix of so many acts,
Yeah.
I grew up with playing the same clubs as a kid with a band out of Philly called Pretty Poison. They had the Catch Me I'm Falling, that big song.
Yeah, I love that song.
Yeah. So they, I see them on the road doing, the same thing, all those 80 things with, Taylor Dane and all those people. And incredible.
My friend Rob Bass, the guy has lived a full life on It Takes Two.
Yeah.
That song, It Takes Two. The guy's working every weekend. I booked him back in 1986. And he's, still out there. And I love that for him.
I love seeing that stuff keep going. Where do you see, because I see it just in front of my eyes growing and growing and growing, the tribute business, the tribute band business. Every time I open my eyes, there's 10 more Van Halen bands or whatever. But where do you see a certain direction it going? Is it moving from genre, let's say, from the 80s to 90s? Or what's your opinion of that?
Well, I touched on something that no one was really doing, because I'm always trying to think what is next? You know what I mean? And the kids didn't really I think the parents had to explain to them, we're going to see someone today who's not Taylor. She's going to look like Taylor, but it's not her. You know what I mean? I don't know that anyone's like, oh, we're really going to see Taylor Swift. But so I think that it has worked. We've been around the country, a lot of sold out shows. And I think that this Let's Sing Taylor really opened up a new audience of young people who were not used to going to tribute bands. The teenagers are still a hard sell. It's not that easy to get the teenager to commit to go see a tribute band, okay? But I think if you look at, there's certain venues out there, certain venues still try not to do the tribute band thing, but there's certain venues that have just, if you look at Daryl's House, which is a small venue, there are only tribute bands there.
Right.
And I think that, listen, The Edge and Adam Clayton went to the Cutting Room in New York City one night and got on stage with Unforgettable Fire. For the most part, I think it's good for the bands, for the original. Listen, they don't have to worry about the tribute bands.
Agreed.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I really don't think any of those bands, if you're covering another band, if you're covering a band and you want to sell some tickets, you're not covering bands that are headlining at Irving Plaza. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're covering bands that are headlining at Madison Square Garden or Giant Stadium. You know what I mean? So the real bands, I don't think, and in some way, and I'm not trying to but you are servicing some people that are not able to go to your concerts.
Absolutely.
But they're going to hear your music, and I think I personally think it's a good thing. I don't see the tribute band thing slowing down. I think as long as these regular priced shows, these original acts are charging the crazy money that they are. Let's be honest. It's absolutely it's just gotten.
It's expensive.
It makes me take a deep breath because it's listen, I make a pretty good living, right? But if I want to bring my family of four to a show that's $600 tickets, it's $2,500 before we step in the building.
Yeah.
And then there's all the merch. And I'm a merch guy. I love buying my kids merch.
It's another sporting event.
So,
it's the same thing. You're going to spend a lot of money. And it's hard to do that, especially nowadays.
You can only go to so many shows. But, if you're going to go to the Paramount, the Paramount is a very popular venue in Long Island. They do a lot of original, but they also do a lot of tributes. And they get it. Let me tell you something. They roll out the red carpet for, I don't care, I haven't been there with, let's say, Heart or some of the bigger acts that they've had, but I've been there with all my tribute bands, and they roll out the red carpet for us, and they treat us great, and we love playing there. And at the end of the day, we all have bills to pay. They have bills to pay. So if they have 1,600 people in the room, and those people are hitting the bar and having a great time, and their staff is working, and because it trickles down to every time I walk into a live music venue, and I owned them for 20 years, and I don't own them anymore, but I understand what goes into making it work. I know that the busboys are the ones who are getting there first and leaving last. And I understand that the bartenders are, after they just worked a 7-hour shift, they got to count all the tips. Counting the tips takes an hour and a half sometimes. If it's a good night, a lot of work goes into the show. It's not just, it's the promoting, all the marketing people, all the stuff that they've done to make the show happen.
It's a lot of work, and I think a lot of the venues now with these tribute bands are appreciating it because they see people coming through the door, and most of the time they sell out. So I love seeing that.
We didn't touch on this yet, but I started my music career at the Capitol Theater in Portchester, New York. I started it at a nightclub called Krypton's, which was in Banksville, New York. And that owner of Krypton's knew the owner of the Capitol Theater. Now, today, the Capitol Theater is owned by Peter Shapiro, who owns all the Brooklyn Bowls. He started Brooklyn Bowls, but he bought the Capitol Theater, I think, in 2012. But in 1987, I was 19, and I was doing parties at this place called Krypton's, and the owner said, look, this guy's got this theater in Portchester. He's doing like one other band, but there's not really a lot going on there. But in the 70s, the Capitol Theater was home to Janis Joplin, the Grateful Dead. I mean, everybody was playing there, the Doobie Brothers, but they'd closed down for like 10 years. And he said, do you want to do something there? So I said, yeah, I would love to. I walked over to the Capitol Theater and checked it out, and we were able to get Jimmy Cliff, which at that time I was also listening to a lot of reggae music. So that's where I started. I really started at the Capitol Theater, and my friend Evan Siegerman and I, he was my partner at the time, he was also my best friend, and we started throwing these parties, but we said, let's do the Capitol Theater. So we didn't have to put that much money up. I think Jimmy Cliff in 1988, I want to say we paid him $7,500. So we had to put up 50% of that.
Wow.
And I had to put down a couple $1,000s on the Capitol. So I borrowed a couple of bucks from my dad. Evan borrowed a couple of bucks from his dad. We had a couple of our own bucks. And my dad said, I'll give you a couple bucks if you throw in your money too. And we did. And we sold out Jimmy Cliff on the first go, 1,800 tickets. And so it's interesting, and Jessie's girl is getting ready to play there. Let's Think Taylor just played there. I mean, I've been doing shows at the Capitol Theater. It started in the 80s, and I ended up doing about 6 or 7 shows at that time in the 80s and the early 90s. And it was me and Evan, and there was this one other guy doing shows there of a band I'd never heard before, and all his shows were selling out, and ours were, Jimmy Cliff would always sell out. We did Edie Brickell, New Bohemians. We did Third World, the reggae band Third World. We did One Night with the Wailers and Andrew Tosh, which is Peter Tosh's son. And our shows were doing well, but this other guy, this band, and every one of his shows were selling out. I was like, who the hell is this band Fish? I'd never heard of them before. And they were selling out every show. I'd never heard of them.
That's so funny.
Yeah, so that's where I sort of learned how to become a promoter, was at the Capitol Theater.
Yeah, no, I mean, you got your background right there with all those bands.
Now, what lessons, talking about being a promoter back in the day, like what lessons do you think still apply today with the tribute section of what you did in the past? So
I'm an old school sort of guy. I've been around for a long time now, and I social media. Obviously, we had no social media back then. So Evan and I would get in our car at around midnight, and the Capitol Theater is in Portchester, New York. It's right on the tip of Greenwich, Connecticut, Stamford, Connecticut. And the nice thing about those kids from Connecticut would come to Portchester because the bars were allowed to be open till 4 in the morning. So there was like a little bar scene in Portchester and in New Rochelle,
Isn't there a train station right across the street?
and the train station, great point, Ray, is right across the street. So even people from the city would go, because you could get from Grand Central to Portchester on a 35-minute train. Or you can go from New Haven, down to Portchester in a 40-minute train ride. So that was a great thing that it had going for us. So Evan and I at midnight would go out in our car and we would drive around and we'd post up posters for Jimmy Cliff or Edie Brickell on the telephone poles because we'd have to do it we wanted to do it at night when we didn't think the cops would sort of see us and take them down. And so I recently, just 3 weeks ago, opened up, which is a whole nother story, a vinyl record shop in Dumbo, Brooklyn, with my son. 3 weeks ago.
Oh, congratulations, man.
Thank you. It's called Vinyl and Thread. Okay.
And where is it located? Vinyl and Thread.
It's at 147 Front Street in Dumbo, Brooklyn.
Are you right? Are you right by the bridge?
Dumbo, right by the bridge. We're the first exit off the Brooklyn Bridge.
There's a great little lobster shack, a lobster roll shack right there, right at the bottom of the bridge.
Oh, really? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've lived in Dumbo now for 20 years. And there's a building that is in the middle of Dumbo on Front Street that's sort of like, there's stores on the first floor, but it's an all commercial building. And I saw 2 stores open up. One opened up on the second floor and one opened up on the third floor. And they were very busy. And that gave me the idea to take a store on the second floor in between those 2 stores. I said, you know what? I think we could create like this thing where people come upstairs because the spaces on the second floor are half the price of the spaces on the storefront. And I took this store, and my son Ben is a sophomore at Pace University, which is 1 mile in the city in Manhattan over the Brooklyn Bridge. And he goes there, and he, during COVID, when he was 15 years old, started buying and selling clothing out of his room, all from Japan.
Interesting.
So, yeah, he got into clothing from Japan, and these boxes would come from Japan. I was like, Ben, what is this stuff? And, and I found that he had this real niche for, this was a kid that, I coached him in soccer and he played basketball, but all of a sudden he was very into fashion. And recently, like 2 months ago, I said, Ben, I've always wanted to own a vinyl store because I used to have a radio show years ago, and I would always talk about the guys who own the vinyl shops because I said, you want to talk music, just go into a vinyl record shop. Those guys will talk music with you all day because they've been around forever and they got all the stories. And I always thought one day when I retired, I would open up a vinyl record shop. And I realized, you know what? First of all, you never know how long you're here for. And I said, my kid to this day sells clothing out of his room. And a room in New York City is about 40 square feet. It's not big. We're not in the burbs where you get the big room. And I said, Ben, I found this space. I kept seeing this space available on the second floor. I said, I'm going in, I'm taking that space. And you're going to be half the store with your clothing. And I'm doing the other half vinyl. And it's called Vinyl and Thread. And I introduced myself now. I'm like, my name's Vinyl, and that's Ben is
Thread. Oh, that's awesome.
And we have this cool store, and it's vinylandthread.com. You can see what the store looks like. And
we'll list it.
We've been open for 3 weeks now, and we just do it as a sort of a pop-up shop. I mean, we're open, so we're going to be there. I took the space for at least a year, so.
Can one order online, like a Japanese shirt?
Well, not yet. Here's the thing. This is not, I'm not quitting my day job, which, we have ML Presents and we do a lot of events and shows. And obviously I've got all my bands, but this has been very therapeutic for me to sit in a store. I never ever thought I would be in retail. I mean, just like, retail, like, was never in my cards. But I will say, we open now Saturdays and Sundays only. So we're just there on the weekends. Ben's, because he's in school during the week. And I love meeting people. Like, I'm literally meeting strangers now or walking into my store. I mean, we had a couple from Germany. We had a family in from Manchester, England. Dumbo happens to get a lot of tourists.
It's a beautiful area. Yeah.
It's a great area, and we're getting the Dumbo locals, but we're also getting all these tourists, and my friend who owns a record store on Jones Street, he owns one of the oldest record stores. It's called Record Runner. For 40 years, he's been there.
Wow.
Okay, and I said, John, I'm opening up a record store. I don't know the first thing about owning a record store. I said, John, I've been ordering. I said, you're gonna kill me. Because I didn't have the nerve to ask him, but I finally had to ask him because I was ordering records from Amazon. Okay, I was ordering vinyl, and I'm going to buy it and sell it at the same price. I'm going to lose because I'm paying tax. So he said, "No more. I'm going to give you my wholesaler." But he said, "Marcus, just buy what you know. Don't buy anything else. Just buy what you know. You know a lot of music. Start with your own." Start with your collection. You're going to sell some of your vinyl because I've been buying from him for years, but you'll have stories on each one and you can talk to people about it. That's what I started doing. And I started, he gave me his wholesaler but I kept with the albums that I knew. And all of a sudden I had 100 albums in the store, and my wife and I said, we'll do 1 and 1. So we sold one, we bought one. We sold one, we bought one. And now we did our 3rd week. So we got a little bit more. So now we're ordering 3 instead of ordering
great.
1 because we're seeing what's selling.
Next thing you know, you're going to have 10,000 records in the store.
A little side project for the last 2 months.
Congrats, brother. That's a beautiful thing, man. It's funny you said that because I have a great vinyl shop in my area, and I'll pop in there once in a while just because of the peaceful feeling you have, the relaxation of just going through the albums and hearing the conversations. And I always thought the same thing. I thought, man, one day, like I want to sit behind that counter.
Yeah. You know what? It's I don't know that it'll ever be a moneymaker, but that's not why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I got the space cheap enough but I am surrounded. I actually run my office out of there now in that space because we only use it on the weekends. I'm surrounded. I mean, you'll look at the store, but I'm surrounded by 130 albums, and I set it up like a real gallery. So I try and get as many albums on the wall as possible. There are some crates where you can dig. I'm mostly doing new vinyl, so I haven't gotten into like the used vinyl yet. We will eventually, but I'm surrounded by all these bands. You know what I mean?
We got to exchange numbers because I got to send you a picture of a recording studio I went to in my area. You are going to be in heaven. I'll send it to you, Mike, as well. I'm not even going to tell you about it. I got to text you this picture.
Okay. Yep.
Badass. Because I want to do this. You'll love it. You'll want to do this too. Trust me. You'll want to do this.
Oh, one other thing. Let me get some names out here. Promote some stuff. What would you like to promote? First of all, tell us the record store again, because we got to promote that.
The record store is called Vinyl and Thread.
Okay.
Vinylandthread.com, and our Instagram is Vinyl and Thread. Vinyl and spelled out AND Thread. Dumbo. Vinyl and Thread Dumbo is our Instagram. There's not a lot of followers on there yet, but that's not what it's about. This has been, first of all, working with my son Ben on this project, and us getting to spend some time together has been amazing. So Vinyl and Thread is the record store. Just if you want to see me, I'm there. I got to tell you, if we have 20 seconds, I got to tell you who inspired this record store.
Yeah.
The lead singer of the band, The Fred.
Yeah.
You guys know The Fred?
Yeah, sure.
At the early 2000s, okay? Isaac Slade, I think is his last name, okay? I was never a huge Frey fan. I knew their 4 or 5 big songs. I read an article about 3 months ago that he left the band and was going through some mental health issues and moved to Vassic, Washington, like out west, and took a 250 square foot store and opened up a vinyl record shop. And he's the one who said it's been more than therapeutic for me. And I read that story in the New York Times, and that's when it gave me the kick in the ass to say, you know what? You can't put off till tomorrow because you don't know that we're going to be here.
Agreed.
And now's the time to do it. And he says, and I was just about to say this to you. If you ever want to see me, I'm at my store on Saturdays and Sundays. And he's like, if you ever want to see me, I work on Mondays. I'll come in and you can bring your Fray record and I'll sign it. The lead singer of the Fray is in a record store in Vassic on Mondays.
I love that. I love seeing that. You know, it to me, whenever you see somebody of a star or whatever, and they're doing a retail thing, you know, it's almost like, I think one of the actors opened a cheesesteak place, you know, from Philly,
right,
in New York, you know,
yeah.
So he's there cooking cheesesteaks for you, you know.
Yeah, you know what? So that it and yeah.
There you go.
Oh, beautiful, man.
There you
I
go.
love the shop. It's gorgeous.
Thank you. MLpresents.com. That's the world.
We'll put it right at the bottom here. We'll put it in the description.
Thank you so much.
And we're going to
really
produce.
appreciate you guys asking me to be
this
on.
has been
man.
amazing.
It's an honor.
I'm not kidding
And,
you. Once we get this
we'll keep in
all
touch.
going
We'll keep in
and
touch,
people are
man.
seeing it, we're bringing you back.
Well, let's keep in touch. And anytime you guys are in New York, just come see me. I'm in the store.
I'll be out there in the summer.
All right.
I'll definitely come reach out.
Excellent. Thank you guys.
Thanks for listening to Tribute Band Sessions podcast. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and drop a comment. Want more info? Sign up to our mailing list at tributebandsessions.com. It's the best way to stay in the loop on upcoming episodes, special guests, and behind-the-scenes stories, and all things tribute bands. And don't forget to follow us on all our socials at Tribute Band Sessions. Thanks for watching.